There he is, kill shot. All right, this video, I had a few people ask to kind of give you a breakdown, do a video giving a breakdown on how I shoot and kind of the shot process I go through. If you notice, I don't use any sights up here and fingers. I shoot what I call bare bow. Other people will call it instinctive, but I call it bare bow. Just kind of level the playing field, and there's no. I've been in arguments before about what's instinctive and what's not instinctive, and so I just call it bare bow. If you shoot with no sights in your fingers, it's shooting bare bow. So that's how I look at it. That's what I call it, bare bow. So one of the guys was Bowhunter00 on YouTube, and the other was a friend of mine, Thomas Drake. He's got a YouTube channel called Tribe Drake that you guys need to check out. It's an awesome channel. He shoots the same bare bow type way, instinctive, however you want to call it. He was one of the suggestions, and when the TV show was running, it was asked all the time. I just never had time to do it, so I'm doing it now. So let me give you a breakdown on my bow real quick. I'm shooting a High Country X10 Speed Pro. It's an amazing bow. I love it. 33-inch axle to axle. It's a kind of short for a finger shooter, but the trend for the bows is shorter and shorter and shorter. 33 is comfortable for me. High Country is building bows again, and I'm probably going to pick up an Eliminator, which is I think it's either a 36 or 37-inch axle to axle, so I'll be picking that one up hopefully pretty soon. So I shoot, my rust currently is the Ripcord drop away rust. I switched between this and rust that's similar to an old TM or Hunter Supreme, which is inverted V with a plunger button. I really like that. Sometimes I shoot flipper rust by NAP, but I've been getting away from that little by little because really this rust and the other in the Hunter Supreme style rust, it's got a built-in arrow holder with it, and I ain't gonna mess with it. I like the drop away rust quite a bit, and yes, I'll show you. You can shoot them with your finger. Let's see. I don't keep anything else on my bow but my quiver, and I will shoot my quiver. I shoot my bow with the quiver on the bow. Two reasons that I do that is one is you have access to your arrows when you need it without having to reach around trying to get it in your tree or your blind or anything, so it's on my bow. The other reason is I use my quiver to kind of help block up my human silhouette. Excuse me. When the target animal, whatever it is coming in, I tend to either look down the side of my riser or through my quiver here, and I keep my attention on that, that deer, that bear, whatever it is, looking down the side. And 90% of it is, just so that I can break this, human silhouette up. I follow the animal this way, and then when I'm ready to shoot, I just kind of slowly push my bow up and then draw my bow back. And then I think that's a lot less movement than, following and then, bringing the bow up to shoot, or, these guys got to lug their bows back to, get the arrow drawn back. There's just less movement to, slightly move forward like that and then draw the arrow back. So that's why I keep my quiver on my bow. Now, one real quick thing about this quiver. This quiver is a Martin Super Quiver, and I used it forever. As I progressed in the industry or whatever, you got, companies want you to use this quiver on this bow, and use this quiver and, go down to a 4-arrow quiver or 3-arrow quiver. But I always used this in the past. And as I got rid of, you know, 35, 40 years worth of stuff over time, I ended up letting them go with different bows. And Tom Drake from Tribe Drake on YouTube, he used one, and I watched one of his videos. I'm like, oh my God, I remember those. I loved those quivers. So after talking with Tom, I ended up getting on Facebook and searching around, and I found a couple of people that had them. So I bought them, and it's on my bow. It's staying on my bow. I'm probably never going to switch up again. It's just a great quiver. It holds 10 arrows with 2 on the outside for your flu-flus or whatever. I don't always fill the quiver. It depends on what I'm doing. If I'm small game hunting, I'm definitely filling it up. I'll have, I'll have flu-flus from one end to the other in it. But for deer hunting, I keep 5-6 arrows in it and a flu-flu. Always keep a flu-flu in there just for, squirrel, rabbit, whatever. So one of the other things I want to do is show how I set the bow up. So give me a minute. We're going to move over to the shooting bench over here that Julie and the boys sight their rifles in on. And we'll move over there, and I'll give you a breakdown on how I set this up real quick. All right, I'm going to give you a quick breakdown on how I set my bow up. So in the past, the older style bows, we used to adjust the bottom tiller out, 1/8 of an inch, whatever it was. And that was mostly because you had a center point more in your rest instead of where your arrow's at. Now they build them with the center of your bow more where your arrow sits. Adjust here. Okay. So with any of the new bows, I set my tiller dead even on top and bottom, and they'll usually adjust, or measure from, the pivot point of your limb to the string, pivot point of the limb to the string. I set those dead even now. Obviously you're going to time your bow, all that. So with my center shot, I always turn. Hey. This is Ozzy. Pain in the butt. Don't bite. Okay, so my center shot, so my windage, I always set it dead center. Just like you would if you was setting up for a release. And then once I got, the bow ready to go, ready to shoot, I go up to the target, I point my bow, get where I want to hit, and I let it go. If it's not going where I'm looking, then I adjust it. With this ripcord, tends to stay dead center. I don't tend to have any problems with it. When I set up with the old Hunter Supreme style, I tend to be inside center just a little bit, and it's just, I don't know if it's me shooting or the difference in the rust or what, but it tends to be inside a little bit. But dead center, and I still started out dead center. And then, like I said, I'll shoot if I'm, if I'm looking at where I want to hit and I'm shooting outside of, to the left of where I want to hit, and then I'll move my rest in. Usually not a problem with my elevation. If I'm going to have a problem with something, that's going to be right and left, so that's where I move that. I always start out with a 90 degree on my nock, and then I will shoot and either watch the arrow or I'll paper tune. Yes, I paper tune with my fingers. A lot of people think you can't do it or it doesn't work or whatever, but I do. I think it has a lot to do with, the way you release your bow. So right in there should be about 90 degrees, just by a quick guess. So if you go from there, that high. So That's where it ended up tuning at this time, is about that high. I don't use brass knocks very often anymore. I usually tie. I do a 9 knot knock is what we used to call them when I was working in the archery shops. And it's just a tied on knock. It's just a series of 9 knots that you tie to create the knock. On this particular bow, I wanted a little bit more feel on my fingers, and I ended up, if you can see, this is the serving, and I've wrapped serving above and below my arrow where my arrow sits, and that just makes it a little bit fatter. I can feel it when I grab onto it. If I need silencers, I'll add them. This bow, it's pretty damn quiet, so I don't add any other silencers to it. Another thing is I serve my knot on my cord for my rust. I don't use the football. I don't care for those. It's tying the knot in there, I think, holds it a little better. And as you can see, I don't trim much off of it. If there's ever an adjustment that needs to be done later. I try to keep everything as absolute simple as I can. And that's pretty much how I set my bow up. Like I said, you got to remember always, timing, even tiller. I set my windage up on my rust in center, and knock height. I start at 90 degrees center. Another thing, when I set up my arrow for my my windage on here, I line up my string to my cam track on the top and bottom, and then I kind of bisect down in the arrow. I want my arrow bisecting the string bisecting the arrow. That's how I set it up. Like I said, with the Hunter Supreme style rust, I get out and I shoot. Like I do, I point the bow where I want to hit it and let it go, and it's usually outside, so I got to move it in, or hitting outside of where I'm looking, to the left of where I'm looking, so I usually have to move it in. By the time I move it in, it's inside the center. But that's how I get my windage set. I usually use moleskin for padding with especially with the Hunter Supreme style, in case my arrow jumps when I'm drawing, which doesn't happen all the time, but it happens occasionally. And I use moleskin in my launcher forks here, just so when you're drawing, you're not getting the drawn back. Let's see, that's pretty much it. I throw on a cheap rubber stabilizer, only because I've always shot with the stabilizer. There's no main reason. When I first got this bow and set it up, I shot it without it for the first couple hundred arrows, and then I was like, oh yeah, I got that stabilizer, we need to get that on there, so threw the stabilizer on it. But it's not necessary. Really nothing else I can think of. Going back to equipment, we use these American Broadhead Sonics with the weight of the bows that we're shooting. This is somewhere between 54 and 58 pounds, somewhere in there. These cut-on impact heads are perfect for penetration. Julie shoots under 50 pounds, uses these, blows through deer. She's got the same bow with smaller cams on it. Both deer I shot last year was complete pass-throughs. At like 30-ish yards, 31 yards, my buck was a complete pass-through, both shoulders. They fly beautiful too. That's one thing about them is they're aerodynamic and they fly great. We've been using these since 2010 or so, and I've tried probably every broadhead on the market up until the last few years, and I keep going back to these. So that's American Broadhead Sonics. I think they're 100 grain, 1-inch cut, 3-blade replaceable. So if you dull them, you just replace the blades. They're not super expensive. I have used expandable broadheads. Used them in the past. I've used them quite a bit. When Vortex, which is one of the first expanding broadheads that I know of, I sold them when I was working at the archery shops and used them and killed a lot of deer with them. I prefer a a fixed blade head and cut on impact. So that's it. That's about all I can say on the setup. Before the cat jumps on me again, I'll get this set back up and I'll kind of give you a rundown on, how I shoot. So give me just a quick second. Okay. Kind of got 2 cameras running here, so hopefully I can get the whole shot process. So anyway, so when I shoot, as I was saying before, with keeping the quiver on the bow, I look down here, through here, slowly push forward, and then draw my bow. And when I hit my anchor, I usually anchor with the thumb locked under my jaw, and I think my index finger probably ends up somewhere, on the corner of my mouth here. And then once I get back to full draw, I just relax the finger. So my shot process here: come up like the deer's coming in, so the deer stops, or I prefer to shoot a deer, walk in, but in this instance, we'll say you stop, right? So I got my bow up, watching my spot, push forward, draw my bow back, and I'll call that a good shot. So when I look, it's kind of hard to explain. So when I've got my sights, which is my eyes, my spot I want to hit, and I get locked down onto what I want to hit, that's the only thing that my conscious mind is looking at, is the spot I want to put the arrow in. One of the reasons I call this bare bow instead of instinctive is someone is not coming into my house or my yard here, picking up my bow, drawing it back and shooting and hitting the X every single time, first time they ever shot a bow. The big argument that I got into people with was, that's instinctive. That's, you instinctively know how to do it, where it really don't happen that way. It's more of a, hand-eye coordination, muscle memory, repetition. When somebody's interested in learning to shoot without sights, I set them at 5 yards away from the target. I tell them to, draw your bow back, point it at the target, and shoot. If you're hitting where you need to be hitting, good. Keep shooting. Keep doing exactly the same thing you're doing. If you need to adjust up, down, left, and right, do that. Then shoot. Then shoot, then shoot, then shoot, then shoot. Until your mind knows where at 5 yards that bow's got to come up, go to that spot, and you shoot. When then you step back, to 10 yards, and step back to 15, 20, and you just keep shooting at each one of those ranges, and you go back up at 5 and shoot again. go back to 20, shoot, jump back and forth. Your mind will get to the point where it knows where you're supposed to shoot. Now, do I use any part of my bow for adjustments? Consciously, my conscious mind, no. Does my subconscious mind use my arrow for windage or up and down or anything? I have no idea. I'll be honest with you. I see nothing but like everything here that's in my sight window. I see my deer, my target, whatever it is, I see it. All the rest of the stuff is blurred out, so I don't know. I don't pay attention to it. I will say that this is, there's not a magic pill you can take. There's nothing, divine cosmic creation that makes you shoot a bow with no sights. It's literally what I said, muscle memory, hand-eye coordination, and repetition. That's why I call it bear bow, so nobody can argue with me. It's just bear bow, right? Okay, so my sight picture. I'm just giving it another arrow up on here. I don't know if I can get how well I can get this. Another thing, I tend to camp my bow for some reason. I don't know if it's from, all of the, recurve longbows that I started out shooting when I was a kid. But for some reason, I tend to camp my bow at shorter distances, and then the farther back I go, the more plumb it is for some reason. I don't know. But hopefully you can see in here. This sight picture, when I draw back and I anchor, so I am looking through here. If I consciously look, I can see my arrow down there. But if I consciously look, I'll miss. That's why I never pay attention to what my arrow's doing or my bow, my rust, my quiver, anything. I make sure that nothing's going to hit anything when I'm drawing my bow back, and that's the end of it. I don't pay attention to anything else. And then, so there is, I can shoot, my normal anchor's here, but I can shoot down here, I can shoot down here, I can shoot with my hand away from my face, and I'll throw a video up, some video clips showing that. I can lay down and shoot. I can have my bow this way and shoot. But that's after years. I've been doing this for, 40 years, or a little more. So I still think, it's your brain. Your brain knows what you have to do and how to calculate your, the change. So I'm going to give another quick shot process, and hopefully maybe this camera over here can kind of show where I anchor and how I'm holding. And so again, you're up here, you're looking down, the right side by your quiver over here, and then it's extended. Draw back and anchor, drop the finger, and shoot. Well, I spied him on that one, but I was paying attention to the wrong crap, so I was trying to think. You think too much and you'll mess up. It's the way I am, I guess. But I'd still take that shot. That's going to kill that deer, so. Yeah. So I don't know really anything else to say about it. If you guys got any questions or comment, put them down in the comments. I'll definitely try to answer them. Like I said, there's no magic pill that does this. It's I enjoy shooting, so it's not practice to me. I just shoot, and it's repetition. And I really don't know how much more to say it than what I already have. And my dog and cat are going to start chasing each other now, so it's probably a good time to end this video. So if you guys like what you've seen, like, subscribe, I don't know, share the video if you want to. Um, Definitely like, share some comments. Any questions, put them in the comments, and I'll definitely answer them. All right. Thank you. You guys have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.